welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Episode 1 of The Conscious Man.
Awesome.
And our beautiful guest, Shawna Lee, soon to be Shawna Hoskins.
Yes, glad to be here.
So, first question I want to ask people on the podcast.
Okay.
Because the podcast is called The Conscious Man.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to be a conscious man? What does that mean to you?
When I think of the word conscious, I think aware. So a conscious man, I would think it's a man who is aware of himself and those around him, probably aware of his feelings, emotions. Yeah, kind of self-aware is a conscious man, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that. I would probably say the same thing. It's like an awakened man, someone who is actually awake to his impact on the people around him, his impact on the world. Someone who's putting effort into creating their life consciously.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. As opposed to the floating man, someone who's just doing the daily grind, the mundane, getting through life instead of creating life.
Which is a lot of men.
Yeah.
Seems to be.
For sure.
I will say the more I've woken up, and it's interesting because the more I feel like I've got conscious, the more unconsciousness I see in myself. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It's like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. The more you heal, the more you realize the unhealed parts of yourself. It's like this unending game. And so being a conscious man it's an unending game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so it's like it's a process. And I mean, from my perspective, this is a game that we're playing. The game of consciousness. Okay.
Kind of the game of life is the game of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you consider being a conscious man, does that mean you're growing versus being a floating man or not conscious?
Yeah, I just think it's like a man that's actually putting effort into growth. Okay. Someone that's putting effort into this game of like becoming better for themselves primarily. Mm-hmm. And the consequence of becoming better for yourself is becoming better for the collective.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're more aware.
Mm-hmm.
Being conscious is more aware.
Okay. Yeah, awareness, consciousness, same thing, right?
Yeah. So you never get it done.
You never get it done.
Which is good.
There's no endedness to this game. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's with that. I like that.
So where should we start? Should we tell a little bit about our story, or should we jump into my ayahuasca experience?
Well, I think we should jump into your ayahuasca experience.
Okay. So ayahuasca. So I felt the call to do ayahuasca. A year and a half ago, probably about.
And what does the call feel like?
So they call her grandmother ayahuasca, right?
Okay.
Because they say that she has a spirit, so she is a consciousness.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I just do remember feeling like her spirit connected to me, mm-hmm. and told me that she had some healing for me.
Okay.
At the time, I was working on some gut problems that I was having that I'm obviously still working on. And that was like the biggest message that kind of came through, was just like, I have some healing for you with your gut issues. It's time. You know, because I've seen ayahuasca in the spiritual community. People talk about it like it's this initiation, and so I'd been thinking about it, And then that kind of just came into my awareness. I felt like she connected to me and basically told me, "You're ready."
Okay. So did it come while you were in meditation or reading a spiritual book, or just on a day-to-day?
I don't remember. I like maybe vaguely remember like sitting on my back porch, which is where I feel like I receive a lot of information. Okay. So it might have been there, but I don't remember exactly where it happened. But I do remember feeling like I connected to her, and she told me that it was time. And so I kind of started this search to find an experience, because I'd been invited to like experiences in like Salt Lake City where people were doing it, and I always just wanted like the authentic experience of like doing it in the jungle. I always pictured like doing it in the jungle of Peru, and so I wanted the authentic experience. I got an opportunity about 6 months ago with a guy that we were looking at. I think I talked to you about it. We were looking at going to Costa Rica to do it with him, and it just didn't quite line up.
I remember you said Peru too. You were like, when I do it, I want to do it like in Peru.
Yeah. And part of that was like I met a lot of Peruvian people on my mission, and I loved Peruvian people, and I loved their food. That was like one of my the best parts of my mission was eating Peruvian food. And it was also just, I mean, ayahuasca comes from, the upper Amazon in Peru and Ecuador. And
so the people that have it in Utah or whatever, do they outsource it? They bring it in from these places? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've heard people like get it in the mail in like different forms. But yeah, and then I joined a men's group 6 months ago, and the leader of the men's group told us that he was going to be doing an ayahuasca experience, and I immediately knew like that was it.
You just felt the call.
Yeah, for sure, because I had gotten really close with this group of guys. It's an amazing men's group with men from all over the world. It's like much more focused on like spirituality. Quite a bit different than my group, obviously. And so he dropped that, and I was like, yeah, I'm 100% in. Like, I knew I was in. Didn't care how much it costed. I was in. So then he let us know it was going to be in Ecuador, which I felt was really special, because I did also meet a lot of people from Ecuador, and he told us that we were going to be doing it with the Quechua tribe, which is like just like the natives of Ecuador, right? So I would compare them to like the Native Americans in America, but of Ecuador. And I remember on my mission in Spain talking to people that were from Ecuador, and they used to always talk about the Quechua people all the time. And they always spoke of these people with like very high respect. People that knew the land, people that knew the plants, knew the medicines. And so he told us we were going to be doing it with the Quechua tribe. We were going to be hiking into the jungle. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really special.
Okay.
But I also had very high expectations for ayahuasca because of the way people talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I've heard great things.
Yeah. I mean, so many people say that it has changed their life. And so anyway, we hiked I flew to Ecuador, met up with a group of 13 other guys from all over the world: New Zealand, Canada, Costa Rica, South America, Europe.
What was the age range with these guys?
21 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're all pretty close. There was only like a couple younger guys. Most of us are right between 30 to 38.
And are they single guys, married guys, both?
Both.
Okay.
Both. But we've all been in this men's group together. A lot of us hadn't met in person yet, but we've been on calls almost every Sunday for the past 6 months. And so we'd grown pretty close. Okay. And like a lot of these, like pretty much every man that went is a man that I look up to in a big way, because these men are, in my eyes, like spiritual giants. Right? They're men that are very conscious men.
So on your calls, are they like spiritual calls? Are they getting to know you calls? Like
no, it's very very spiritual. It's okay. Very spiritual men's group. I would say it's a men's group full of conscious men that are very focused on consciousness and awareness and healing. Yeah.
And had any of them done ayahuasca before?
Yeah, I mean the leader of the group, Eisen, he had done ayahuasca over 30 times.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And a couple of the other guys had done it like 20 times. Okay. There were a few of us that had never done it before. Mm-hmm. And yeah, a lot of the guys that had done it a lot spoke very highly of it.
Yeah, I'd feel safe. Obviously, it's great if they want to keep doing it.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely felt like this was the experience. I felt like I was going with experienced men. And so I flew into Quito in Ecuador. From there, we took a bus ride 4 hours into the jungle, and the bus dropped us off, and then we hiked about an hour into this Quechua village.
Okay, and this was mid-March, right?
Yeah, mid-March.
Okay.
Is that when it was? Yeah, about a month ago.
And there's how many of you?
There was 14 men, including myself. And we hiked in, and basically it was this one family that was living on the land. I don't know how many acres their village was. It wasn't huge, but it was in the middle of the jungle. In the middle of the jungle.
For
an hour. Yeah, okay. We hiked in for an hour. I was carrying my 50-pound bag. I thought I was in okay shape until I started hiking, and then I made it about halfway, and the shaman had brought his son to help us pack stuff in, and he saw me struggling. Because this is all uphill, and I'm carrying 50 pounds on my back.
And the shaman is the guy from the tribe, or
yeah,
you're okay.
Yeah, well, there's two shamans.
Okay.
So the main guy that we've been in contact with, his name was Juan.
Okay.
So he's 45, 44, I think. Mm-hmm. His dad is still the main shaman of their tribe. But he works underneath him, and so we had both of them there with us. But Juan was the one that was hiking in with us, and his son was hiking our stuff in. So I got about halfway up this hike. He saw that I was struggling, and he's like, "Hey, do you want my son to take your bag?" And I was like, "Sure." And this kid was probably 16, just takes my bag and just trucks up and just passes everybody, and just like, "Okay, I'll just be back here." And so anyways, we hiked in, and I was pleasantly surprised by the accommodations. We're in the middle of the jungle. There's no hot water. There's no electricity. No service.
I know.
But we had our own little cabins. Mm-hmm. They were decently nice. We had our little beds with mosquito nets over them. We had our own little bathrooms, our own showers, no hot water, but it was pretty nice, pretty nicer than what I expected. And so we're now in the jungle for 8 days, completely disconnected. So the first 2 days, we essentially just prepared for the medicine. We did what was called a 21 plant blood cleanse.
Huh. And how did you prepare?
We were drinking that. We also saunaed with it. They had these little saunas set up for us where they would just boil a pot, and then we'd get in there with it. So we were essentially just preparing ourselves.
In
for
a little teepee?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. And obviously leading up to the experience, you'll also have to go on dieta, which is basically just preparation. So no red meat, no pork, no sex. They say 3 to 4 days out. I think we did nearly 7. What else? No alcohol, no drugs. So you're essentially preparing to receive this spirit of ayahuasca.
Okay. So kind of a detox going into it.
Yeah.
So you're prepared.
Yeah, low on salt, which was interesting because they said they most people say don't take a lot of salt, but we also realized when we were there, the food they were cooking us had a lot of salt in it. So I don't know. Different cultures will do this experience differently. So anyway, so we prepared for this. I'm just basically spending time with these men in the jungle. We're kind of holding our own circles. We got there, and we got in circle in this. There's this round building where they hold the ceremony.
Okay.
Right. I think it was called a Maloka. We called it the spaceship. And so we were holding circle in this. So we had our first circle, and in our first circle, each man stood in front of all the other men, and stated his intention and his will, basically why he was there, and basically. And then each man stated that, and then stood in front of each man and looked him in the eyes, basically just like taking full responsibility for why you were there, that you were going to commit his commitment and his will.
So like fully conscious. Did you feel like more conscious during that? Like,
Did I feel more conscious?
Because I kind of think maybe disconnecting from your phone, from service, from communication, I would think your other, like, things are heightened. Like your awareness, your consciousness, but maybe not. And maybe group collective consciousness, or?
I don't know if I would. I don't know that I noticed that. Maybe that's true, but I don't know that I noticed that. Okay. I felt very disconnected. It was hard. It was honestly, it was a little bit hard. I had a lot of like flashbacks to my mission.
Okay.
Like even like the first night I was there, I had flashbacks to my first night in the MTC, which was really hard for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, because I remember like being dropped off my first night in the MTC, like getting in bed that night, and just like I remember I just like kind of sat up on my bed and I was like, what the fuck did I do?
And it's too late almost.
Yeah. So
kind of triggered.
I was pretty triggered. Yeah. So it was difficult. I was excited to be there. I was happy to be with these men. I was excited to meet a lot of these guys that I had built really close relationships with before even actually meeting them in person. But yeah, it was difficult. It was hard to be away from you, completely disconnected. It was hard to be away from home. But I knew that the whole experience was going to be medicine that I needed.
Okay.
So we did the cleanse, and then so we got there on Friday, and then our first ayahuasca ceremony was Sunday night.
Okay.
And
before you go into the ceremony, I loved hearing how it was prepared and the involvement.
Oh yeah, so the ayahuasca was grown on their land, which was really cool, right? Because obviously, like, it's not grown here in the United States. I mean, unless you import it and grow it yourself. I'm sure people grow it here, but we got the opportunity to take the ayahuasca vine and the leaf, which I can't remember what the leaf is, but the leaf I think activates the DMT, so they boil them together. So we got the opportunity to take that from the land and help prepare it, which basically was you just smash up the vine, put it in with the leaf. And it was interesting too because we helped prepare it, but it has to be a woman that places the ayahuasca into the pot. And I can't remember exactly why. I don't know if it's just because it's a feminine spirit, and I can't remember.
Okay.
But they did say so. There was one of the tribeswomen there with us, preparing it with us, and yeah, that was cool. So we put everything in the boiling pot, and then we put it on the fire, and we just boiled it for 4 hours. And they said it has to stay open, and then it just kind of boils down into like this thick molasses.
Reduction, I think it's called in cooking. You reduce it down and it gets all the extra.
Yeah. So, anyways, we help prepare it. Sunday night, we go into ceremony. So we start about 8 o'clock at night, and basically, you have some time to just sit and wait for the shamans. The shamans showed up about 30 to 45 minutes later.
Wait, after you took the ayahuasca?
No.
After you got there?
After we got there. Yeah, they told us to be there at 8, and then 30, 45 minutes later, they got there. So you had a little bit of time to just kind of sit with yourself, sit on your mattress, prepare, make sure you've got your puke bucket. And they had helpers there, helping us and taking care of everything. But so the shamans show up, and then they serve each man. So each man goes up to where the shamans were at. The shamans were both at the front of this building, And then, the men are all the way around. And so each man went up, and you would sit in front of the shaman.
Okay.
And one of the ladies, he had two ladies sitting next to him from the tribe. They would pour, a little bowl of ayahuasca. They would hand it to the shaman. The shaman would then do his little energy work with it, pray over it, and then he would give it to you. You drink it, and then they give you this tea to wash your mouth out with, because it tastes really bad. It's really bitter. And then then you just go back to your mattress. And then once all the men have taken their ayahuasca, then they started doing individual ceremonies with each man, which were about 25 minutes. So it was basically just you go again up in front of one of the shamans, and you sit in front of them, and then they're just doing energy work on you. So they're in their full shaman outfits, their headdress, shirts off, and that was pretty surreal. When I was sitting in front of the shaman the first night, I was with the older shaman the first night, which this guy's been drinking ayahuasca for 60 years. He holds all the knowledge of his whole lineage, because shamanism is just passed down. And so he's, holding thousands of years of shaman's knowledge. And basically, so you sit in front of him. At this point, I'm about an hour and a half in.
Okay.
Right?
And so, how are you feeling?
So I drank it, went back to my mattress, and I noticed that about 45 minutes in, I could start feeling it. And the best way I could describe it, honestly, is I just felt like I was on a heavy dose of mushrooms. You'd close your eyes, and you'd see geometrical shapes, almost different realities. But I noticed I could open my eyes, and I was fully just here, right? It was almost like I could pull myself out of the experience, no problem, if my eyes were open. Okay. If my eyes were closed, I was having somewhat of an experience. And I will say, the first night, I was a bit disappointed. I think I had really high expectations for what this medicine was going to do. I felt like I was going to pull a ton of information out. I don't know, have all these profound experiences, profound discoveries.
Yeah, you warned me you would come home changed.
Yeah.
Am I ready for you to come home as a changed person?
Yeah.
So I know your expectations were...
Yeah, they were high. And so I felt a bit disappointed, and I also felt quite a bit of anger come up that first night. And it was an anger towards men in general. Huh. I even felt angry that I was there with those guys. I was kind of had this mentality of what the fuck am I doing here? Fuck this, I just want to go home. Huh. This is dumb.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of anger come up. I did kind of deal with that. All the while I'm going through this, I'm starting to feel a little bit more sick in my stomach, right? Which they say, you purge on ayahuasca. And so about an hour and a half in, I still had not had my private ceremony with the shaman. I was one of the last men, at least the first night. And so I, had all this anger coming up. I was also disappointed, starting to feel a little bit sick, but I was kind of fighting that. And about an hour and a half in, the purge came, and it was it just comes all at once.
Projectile vomiting?
Yeah, so I grabbed my bucket and kind of leaned over, and I just felt like I wanted to puke my intestines out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at one point, I couldn't breathe. I was puking so hard. I was but I don't mind throwing up. It doesn't bother me that much. After I puked, I felt a sense of surrender to the anger that I was feeling. My stomach felt a lot better.
Purging emotions?
That's what it felt like, yeah. It felt kind of like a surrender a little bit. But then also after I puked, I did feel like I was kind of out of the experience. I wasn't getting as many visuals even when I closed my eyes. I didn't really feel like I was pulling any information out.
Mm-hmm. How long is ayahuasca supposed to last? You take it, and how long is...
People say 4 to 5 hours, but for me, it was it felt like really like maybe a 2-hour experience. You still feel different for a while after, like you're still kind of in it, but I didn't feel like I was in it, if that makes sense. I felt like I was in it for maybe 2 hours. Like by the time I went up to have my private ceremony with the shaman, I felt like I was mostly out of it. Like I when I would close my eyes, I didn't feel like I was being put in different realities. And I say mushrooms, but like it was almost like a mix of mushrooms and DMT. Because like when you smoke DMT and you close your eyes, it's like you get put into a different reality, right? So there is a little bit of that with ayahuasca. I didn't feel like it was near as deep as DMT though.
Did you have any other emotions besides anger?
Not that I remember. Okay. No emotions really stuck out to me even all 3 nights. So I had that ceremony, and when I was sitting in front of the shaman, I was like a little bit, at this point I had already purged. I was very settled and surrendered. And I was pretty happy when I was sitting in front of the shaman because he was doing his work, right? He's got his little like thing of leaves. He's smoking his tobacco, blowing it on you, clearing the energy. He's got this like rose water that he's like drinking and then spitting on me. Like very authentic experience. Okay. So I'm sitting there and like, you know, he's got his headdress on. He's got like this necklace that goes down his body of like tiger teeth. Like it was cool. And like, you know, the fire was burning outside behind him. He's doing his whole thing. He's singing these ikros while he's hitting me with this leaf, blowing tobacco smoke on me. And I'm like, this is like kind of surreal. Cool. So it was cool.
Because he was old. And
yeah, and like
big.
No, he's like not even 5 feet tall. Okay. But you could
powerful.
Yeah, like when we met him, you could tell like it was a giant of a man in this little shaman's body. You know, you could feel him for sure. And you know he's been singing these ikros and doing this energy work now for almost 2 hours by the time I get up to him. Okay. And so that was a cool experience. But by the end of that night, I did feel pretty disappointed that I didn't really feel like I learned anything, like I pulled some profound experience that was going to change my life. So it's like, okay, I've talked to a lot of people that say, you know, they didn't even have an experience till their 3rd night. Oh. You know, because they say that grandmother ayahuasca will, like, she's clearing you out, you know, before you really have your experience. So I was like, okay, no big deal. Then the next day we did a tobacco ceremony. We were taking a day off from the ayahuasca. We did a tobacco ceremony, which they soak the tobacco in water, boil it, and we actually drank it.
So tobacco, and it's grown in this area?
Yeah. Yeah, it was from the land. So like pure tobacco, which tobacco also has a spirit. It's like the grandfather spirit. Oh. Right?
Okay. So do you do that to kind of balance? You have the grandmother ayahuasca and the grandfather, or does it have the...
Yeah, I mean, so tobacco is like a masculine plant, and then ayahuasca is a feminine plant. And so I don't know if they do it to balance or it's just that's part of the experience, but I also felt like I needed to do it because they say it can clear out a lot of energy here in the gut because you're drinking it. So basically we drank it, and then he said, okay, now over the next hour, just walk around the village and you puke. And then each time you puke, drink a bottle of water. And then puke, and then drink another bottle of water. He said you need to drink 3 basically bottles of water, and then you should puke basically everything out. And it's basically clearing all the energy. So I drank it. When we did it with like half the men that were there, half the men didn't want to do it, which I understand why. I didn't really want to do it either, but I was like, I'm here for this. I'm going to get the full experience. I'm working on healing my gut issues, so this will help. And so drank the tobacco, started walking around. Within about 10 minutes, I'm just puking my guts out. I probably puked like 25 times total. So that was an interesting experience.
And do you still feel anger at this point, or acceptance, or just kind of...
The anger was pretty much gone by the time I had purged on the first night. After that, the anger was basically gone. Okay. And I did trace it back to maybe a little bit of anger towards my dad. I didn't know that I pulled a lot from that, but I did pull something from that anger for sure. Yeah, so then we had the tobacco experience. Then the next night we had our second ayahuasca experience. The second night I had my private ceremony with the other shaman, but very similar experience to the first night. It was basically like, didn't really feel like I pulled much. Yeah, I could close my eyes and kind of feel like I was dropping into different realities. But to me, it was almost just like I got the idea, like I was like seeing these different realities with like a bunch of different colors and shapes, and I kind of felt like I was Alice in Wonderland at one point. It was kind of like that. Like I felt like I was in that type of world. But what was I pulling from it? I didn't feel like I was pulling any information or like any grand lessons. So again, a little bit disappointed. I'm like, okay, well maybe on the third night I'm going to have some profound experience.
So when you're with the shaman and you're having that ceremony or blessing or whatever you would call it, how long is that?
25 minutes.
Oh, okay.
About 25 minutes, yeah.
And do you have any, like, is it a conversation?
No, you're literally just sitting there. He's clearing your energy.
Yeah.
He's singing his Icaros. He's working with the tobacco, the plant, the rose water, and he's just doing his thing.
Okay. And you're standing in front of him?
No, you're sitting on a stool in front of him, and he's standing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, this guy did this 71-year-old man and his 44-year-old son, they did these ceremonies for, 13 men times. It was probably, because they each probably did 6 or 7 men. So it was a good 3 hours of them just singing Icaros and playing their instruments and smoking their tobacco and clearing the energy and spitting their rose water.
What instruments did they have?
I don't know what they're called.
Okay.
One of them I think was a flute, and then they had another instrument that I don't know what it was called.
And so was it their kind of music the whole time?
Yeah, they're singing the whole time, pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
They're singing and they're playing their instruments the whole time. They start the first 30 minutes of the ceremony basically blessing and clearing the space. So they start their work on the space, and then from there they go into the individual ceremonies.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so basically second night, same thing. Third night, I'm like, okay, maybe tonight it's the final night of ceremony. Maybe I'll have some profound experience. Went into the ayahuasca experience. Kind of same thing. Like, I'm kind of dropping into different realities. I feel a little bit sick. I did purge on the second night again. The third night, I did not purge.
And you were given the same amount of ayahuasca each time? No.
The first night, I was given half a cup because I'd never done it before. The second night, I was given a full cup. Oh. And the third night, they're kind of trying to bring you out of it, so they gave me like 3/4 of a cup. Oh. But from speaking to the other men that had done this a lot, they said the medicine was very strong, even just for 1 cup. And these were guys that have done 2-3 cups before. They said it was very strong. So, third night, drop in, same type of thing, right? Like, I'm in the experience. I'm feeling a little bit sick, but I actually never got to the point where I purged. And then by the time I get up to have my personal ceremony with the shaman, I'm again basically out of the experience. I'm not very deep. Like, I'm not seeing geometrical shapes anymore. I feel like I'm coming down basically. And I did have an experience as I was sitting in front of the shaman and he started to do his work on me. A lot of guys will say like they have conversations with the grandmother ayahuasca. I felt like the first night when I dropped in, I closed my eyes and I could see these green eyes that were like investigating me. Like kind of like I could see these, like when I closed my eyes I could just like see these green eyes that were kind of like checking me out, and I felt like that was grandmother ayahuasca.
And how did it feel? Judgy?
No, not really.
Evil? Because I think green eyes, and I'm like, was it evil?
Borderline, but like I felt like I knew that it was her, and so I didn't feel necessarily like it was evil. Like I just knew what it was, and it felt a little bit like we were just like getting to the meeting point. But from there I didn't feel like I had any other interactions with her until the third night. And then on the third night, I'm sitting in front of the shaman. Let me rewind, actually, because the first night I do remember, so I did see the green eyes, and then I felt the message come through. I'm going to work on the energy in your gut. I'm going to work on healing this. Just enjoy your experience. That was the message that did come through. So it's like, okay. But then I still had, high expectations that it was going to be this grand thing. And so third night, I'm sitting in the front of the shaman. I'm coming down. I'm feeling pretty disappointed that this is my last night and I haven't had some profound experience. But I'm sitting in front of the shaman, and then I kind of get the message, and I felt like I did connect to her. And basically it was, what grand, profound experience are you looking for? You have everything that you need. You don't need some great information. You know what you're supposed to do. And that is true. Right? Like, I know where I'm going. I know what my path is.
Like your life purpose, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I hear a lot of people get from ayahuasca, is finding their purpose, finding their path.
Right, and I know that. Like, I know where I'm going. I have a long laundry list of things that I know I need to be doing. I know what I want to do. And now from here, it's just like, just go do it. So that was kind of the message that I got on the third night. So that gave me a little bit of a sense of relief. There's obviously still some level of like disappointment that it would have been cool to have like this life-changing experience. But what information do I need that I don't already have? I know where I'm going. I know the work that I want to do. I know my purpose. I don't need to know every detail because I'll figure it out as I go. So yeah, I mean, that was essentially it. I also think everyone has their medicine.
Okay.
Right? So different medicines work for different people. I've had profound experiences on mushrooms, very profound experiences on MDMA. I feel like if I were to say the medicines that were for me, MDMA and ketamine.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting from a spiritual perspective, because a lot of people are like, well, I only do natural things. Okay. Right? Which I strongly disagree with that, because everything comes from the earth, right? MDMA and ketamine, they have a synthetic process, whereas like you could say like ayahuasca or mushrooms have more of like a natural process. But for me, there's still a process for both of them, and whatever medicine works for you, works for you. So like, when I did ketamine for the first time with my mom, which I've only done once, and I am doing it again next week in like 5 days, so I'm excited for that. Yeah. My first experience with ketamine was very profound. I felt like I completely disconnected from my life, almost saw my life from like God's perspective or just an outside perspective. Saw like all the things that I worry about and like how they just don't matter, So I had a very profound experience on ketamine. So for me to kind of compare ayahuasca to ketamine was my medicine. Ayahuasca was like, cool, I'm glad I had the experience. Mm-hmm. Would I do it again? Probably. Given the right opportunity, because I think it's beneficial. I do feel like it cleared a lot of energy out. But the medicine for me was really probably just the experience as a whole, not necessarily just the ayahuasca. That was probably one of the smallest pieces of the medicine for me. But being in the jungle with 13 men for 8 days, I came out of that experience very hungry to create. So that in and of itself was the medicine for me, just being able to talk with those guys, be with them, ground. About 3 days into my trip in the jungle, my sandals broke. Oh. And the only shoes I had there were my brand new red Air Maxes. And so I just went barefoot the rest of the week, which, that was basically just a sign to me to be like, ground, you got to ground. So I just went barefoot the rest of the week. And so the experience as a whole, profound experience, the exact medicine I needed. Ayahuasca itself, meh.
What if
not really my medicine.
What if you would have went into it without such high expectations? Do you think the experience itself would have been better?
Not really. Not really. I think, I may have not been as disappointed, but I don't think that I would have got a profound experience out of it. I think part of the the most profound part I got was the fact that I was disappointed. Right? Mm-hmm. That kind of was the medicine in and of itself, of being like, you're disappointed because what are you searching for?
Yeah.
You know?
Which to me kind of sounds like it would have been more of a confirmation. Like less disappointment, more of a confirmation of you are where you need to be.
That's what it was, yeah. If I had gone in with that probably high expectations, then I probably wouldn't have got that message of like, what are you looking for?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because then it would have just been like, well, I don't really know what I got out of that. So I did get something out of it for sure, but the medicine for me, I think, was just being with conscious men that are focused on creating their lives. And probably that's another definition to the question we asked at the beginning of the conversation is like, I believe a conscious man is someone who is more focused on creating than consuming.
Okay, cool. Were you able to talk? Okay, so you did the how many days after your third ayahuasca did you stay in the jungle?
So we got there on Friday. My first one was Sunday, then Tuesday and Wednesday. Okay. And we left the jungle on Saturday. So we had a couple of days for integration.
So when you talked to the other guys and everything, did you guys share each other's perspectives? Like, yeah. How did they...
Yeah, so we would meet. We would meet the next day. We would have a circle the next day, and we would all kind of share like what we had pulled out of it. And a lot of guys had like really deep, profound experiences with like a lot of like unlocks that they got that they needed for their lives. So it was cool to hear that too. You know, it was great that they were having the experiences. And I mean, for a couple of men in the group, I feel like their medicine is definitely ayahuasca, and there's a reason a couple of them have done it so many times because it's helped them so much. You know.
So would you do anything different? Like if you were to do it again, would it be the same place, the same tribe, the same... or would you want to explore?
This was a really cool experience, and I wouldn't mind doing it with people that I care about that would want to do it, like you, for example. Like if we did like a couples thing, I think it would be cool. That being said, like now that I had that experience, I would also be totally fine to go do it in Salt Lake at this point. Okay. You know, because I feel like that would be a very different experience. I might pull something completely different out of it. I'm not like excited to go do the experience again because it's not super fun. Like you feel sick, you throw up. It also wasn't as bad as I expected because a lot of like even in our men's group like talking about it was like, oh, we're gonna go. She's taking us to hell, right? And to me, it like a lot of men acted like it was gonna be like a hard experience, and I think some men did go through some hard shit. I mean, I remember the first night. One of the guys was like 20 minutes in, he was already like bawling and like yelling. There was a couple guys that were yelling. On the third night, one of the guys sounded like he was having like a full exorcism. And he doesn't even remember the experience.
So when they're going through that, do the shamans or does somebody come over and help them through that? Or they just are like...
So there were women that were walking around doing some energy clearing if they felt like it needed to happen. The guy that to me sounded like he was having like a full exorcism, he was basically just left to deal with it.
Yeah, to work it out.
Yeah. And I talked to him the next day, and he was like, I don't really remember anything except I would like once in a while come back into my body, and I just felt a ton of pain. And then I would go out of it. So it was hard. I felt like it was more physical pain is what he was talking about. Maybe it was emotional pain. I don't know. But that was a hard experience for him. But he also, you know, he was at a hard time in his life, and he was dealing with a lot of shit that he needed to let go of. So, you know, maybe he needed to go through hell a little bit. But I for me, that wasn't the experience. I didn't feel like I was going through hell. I didn't feel like it was that hard of an experience. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So, the jungle. Did you see snakes?
No, I did not see any
alligators?
Snakes. The guys there did see a big tarantula, but that was it.
Oh, really?
They told us there was tigers there, and
just be careful.
He said they don't really ever enter the camp, but he said you can hear them pretty much every night if you listen. I was like, okay, that's
cool. Did you listen?
I think I heard a cat one night, but he said there were pumas there too. I don't think it was a tiger.
I'm out.
I just feel like I heard a cat on like one of the last nights there, like probably like 100 feet away from my little cabin at night.
Jeez.
So that was cool. But yeah.
How about bugs?
Lots of fucking bugs. I came
You are
home
cut hundreds.
covered. That was the one like downside to where I would like, if I did it again, I would definitely wear bug spray every single day because you didn't really realize how much you were getting bitten. And they were kind of like mosquito bites, but you didn't feel when you were getting bitten. And I came home and they itched for like 2 full weeks. Until they were
so many.
Yeah, so that was like one thing that would maybe not want to make me go back to that place. But I'm glad I got the full experience. I'm glad my first experience was very authentic. In the jungle, disconnected.
Making it yourself, that part blows me away. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that was my experience.
Awesome. So you do it again with me?
I'll do it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it with you.
Hot showers.
I think you would hate it.
I know, I really don't want to.
Because you don't like throwing up.
Well, because I don't. I get super nauseous, but nothing comes out. So it's just, I deal with the pain and stuff. Maybe I would throw up, but I kind of wanted to do it before. But I am not, she has not called me at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've done plenty of other things that have helped us a lot, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be an ayahuasca. I think it's good to experience at least once in your lifetime, especially if you're on a spiritual path, because you don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it could be something.
It could be super profound for you, you know.
Well, and I think if that's the case, you know, I'll wake up one day and start feeling calm.
Yeah, and maybe we'll just get like an opportunity that comes our way to do something. I think it would be cool to do it on like some sort of a couples retreat.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the opportunity comes our way, we'll take it if it feels right.
Consider it. Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was it.
Awesome.
Well, what else?
Wow.
What about you?
What about me?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we were talking about your life purpose and you knowing what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to first hear what your purpose is.
That's an interesting question. I think so many people define their purpose by what job they have.
Yeah.
This is one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like your purpose is so much bigger than the work that you do to make money. And I also believe that you're always living your purpose.
Yeah.
So like, I guess it's one thing to always be living your purpose and like feel like your work is like really in your purpose. So for me, like in that case, like working with men has kind of felt like my calling, I guess. It's like helping men heal, helping men understand their emotions. As I've spent the last 6 years, like really focused on my emotions, understanding my pain, bringing things up to the surface, shining light on the darkness that is within me, and also like understanding the darkness, accepting the darkness, loving the darkness.
Even looking at it.
Yeah, well, looking at it is step number
Yeah.
one, right? Looking at it is step number one, and then, from there, like accepting, surrendering, and loving it, because your darkness holds so much of your power. It holds half your power.
Yeah. I can see that. So how are you? Tell us about your men's group. How are you helping men become more conscious?
How am I helping men become more conscious?
Mm-hmm.
By becoming more conscious myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my men's group is it's just a reflection of myself, is what I've noticed. Is like, if the more I work on myself, as I level up my frequency, the frequency of the group levels up as well. That's what I've noticed. And so it's been really cool starting this men's group. We're like, 10 months in, I've started my men's group, and it's changed as it's gone, and it will continue to change. It will continue to evolve. You know, we've brought in men, we've lost men. It's been really fun, like just trying to help other men while I'm helping myself. And like, I also do it for kind of like selfish reasons, that like I need good men around me. and I want good men around me, and I want deep connection with men where we can be real with each other. I feel like it's so important for men to have other good, conscious men in their life. And like we've always been side by side with other men, especially like going into war, right? It's like one thing that we've lost. And now I feel like humanity's kind of like coming full circle back to it, where like men have been isolated by the powers that be, and now like you're starting to see men come together again, which is really cool because we need each other. Like men need other men. Men need good men in their life for so many reasons. Like one of the biggest is like, if you want to have a good relationship with your partner, you need some good men in your life to be good reflections for you. Also to like help you deal with your darkness, because your woman is not meant to help you deal with all of your darkness. She's not your dumping ground for that shit. So like having good men in your life to help you through that shit, I think is super important. You know, and your woman is going to feel that balance in the relationship when you come back to her.
Yeah, for sure.
So my purpose, that's, I think, my purpose, and it's still changing every day. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but, you know, going from like selling trucks just to make a living, which is great, you know, like people need trucks. Like there's definitely purpose in that. But
it's not your soul's purpose.
It's not super fulfilling to me anymore. It hasn't been for the past couple of years. Like working one-on-one with people, helping them break down their limiting beliefs, their beliefs about themselves, things that are holding them back, identifying those, being real with them, telling them the truth, which is I'm good at. You know, even though it's sometimes
you're good at reading people and being direct and even if it hurts.
So that has kind of become my purpose. Awesome. And that's the direction I'm shifting. And I'm still involved with the trucks, and I still love trucks, and it's great. I just want to do more. Okay.
So you have a container right now of a men's group, right? Mm-hmm. And then that will open up?
Yeah, so we do 90-day challenge. It's called the Agogi Initiation, where we take men through this 90-day course. It's a self-mastery course of 90 days where we focus on self-mastery of mental. No, what's the first one? Physical is the first one. Mental, emotional mastery, financial mastery, spiritual mastery. So we go through this 90-day challenge, and we cover all these different aspects of self. And yeah, it's been really fun. This has been the first one where we've done. Before it was just kind of an open men's group, and now we have the 90-day container, and we'll be done with the 90-day challenge here in like less than a month. And then I'll probably take 3 to 4 weeks off where, I'll still be in contact with the guys that were in the last 90-day group, and then we'll open it up for another 90-day challenge. Okay. And then we're also going to actually open up, there's so many different branches that we're going to.
It's going to take a whole podcast to explain it all.
Yeah. It's just going to change as we go. I don't know exactly everything that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a lot more than just holding one men's group. I want to be teaching different things. You and I will be doing things together to help people, free master classes, stuff like that.
And then you're also doing one-on-one with men.
I am doing one-on-one coaching, and the one-on-one coaching has been super fulfilling. Like watching people that like are ready to go all in on their growth, like really like set apart time and money investing in themselves. I usually see growth super fast.
Yeah, skin's in the game.
One of the guys that I coach one-on-one is here, our Jenny.
Oh, awesome.
The one-on-one is super fun. Like I get to just connect with guys
and really get to know them on a deeper level.
Get to know them, and then I'm like fully invested in telling them the truth, and helping them break down their limiting beliefs, the things that are holding them back, and really invested in seeing them succeed in building the life that they want to create.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Every woman wants a man, a conscious man.
Mm.
Just saying.
Do they?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us about what you're doing. At least I know you side skirted that and put it on me.
Well, you know me, I could talk all night about what I'm doing and take that whole podcast. So I have just been, I felt inspired to pull women together. As you know, we had a company that...
You felt inspired, or your man told you to?
Kind of both. Oh, I guess I heard a little voice. Maybe it was your voice. But also, if I didn't feel like doing it, I wouldn't do it, But I worked with women, 99% women, the last almost 9 years. And I love women. I love their stories. I love their femininity. We closed the company in December, and I felt a large void of women and helping women in all sorts of ways, because it's hard, and I truly believe it takes a village.
What's hard? Life
is hard. Like, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's joyful, but it's hard. It's hard to raise kids. It's hard to be single. It's, relationships can be hard. And I think it's easier when you have support from other women.
Yeah.
And so
I agree.
Yeah. Started a women's group, and we've been meeting once a month. And
so far you just have get-togethers, just ladies' night.
Yeah. Ladies' night. We've had two. They were completely different. Some people, the same came. The activity, it was very different. Both felt perfect and amazing, and I have loved getting to know women that I haven't met before, reconnecting with people I haven't seen in 7 years. One was 11 years. It feels right. It feels good, and I'm super excited to see what unfolds.
Yeah. What else are you doing?
What else I'm doing? My school.
Yeah.
So I am studying to be a hypnotherapist. So
and you're almost done.
I'm almost done. I should be done by July 1st with everything. So.
And you'll be an official hypnotherapist, and then you're going to take people back through hypnotism to things in their life that are holding them back.
Exactly. So any blocks that you have usually there's a root cause, because we're all born perfect. We're perfect little babies. We don't come into this life having stomach problems, having anxiety, having stress. We're born perfect. So there's something that happens usually in our childhood that puts a block on that. And so your body...
Many things that happen, right?
Yeah, many things that happen. So your body, has reasons for those happening, and talk therapy is great. You can talk about it, and, there's a lot of modalities you can use. Hypnosis is one that we just quiet the conscious mind, open up the subconscious, ask the person where this started, and then we look at it. Usually it's inner child work. We spend a few minutes on it, and then basically we ask it to leave. And it's really nice, because you can kind of get through some tough stuff in just 1 or 2 sessions. Just
by bringing awareness to some things that maybe you don't even know about.
Exactly.
Because the hypnotherapy, you're essentially accessing your subconscious mind, right?
Right. Yep. So it's fascinating. You're opening up neural pathways in your brain that maybe have been closed. You open them back up and heal at the root cause.
Cool.
So it's so awesome.
And you're excited about it.
I'm obsessed. I'm so passionate.
You're going to be really good at it.
I hope so. I'm just kind of like the tour guide that shows the people. So when you do hypnosis, it's that person coming up with those childhood traumas, or even recent traumas, coming up with those, and then they figure out how to fix them. So I'm just there to guide them, and to help them quiet the brain that's always thinking, trying to figure things out, open up the subconscious, and let them know what they need to do to heal.
And you took me through a little hypnotherapy the other night.
I did.
And I felt super relaxed. It was cool.
Good. Yeah, sometimes you don't, or most times you won't feel hypnotized per se.
Mm-hmm.
You feel a deep relaxation. When we did yours, we didn't regress back to anything. We just did a healing vortex. Because you can command your cells.
Because I was too scared.
Yeah. And that's okay. I was scared too when I started doing it.
Yeah.
So, but it's awesome.
I don't know what's going to come up.
You don't know. And you know what? And that's okay. It's okay. Because whatever comes up, you can talk. You're fully conscious when you're, like, it's not a hypnotism where you don't know what you're saying or you don't have any control. You're fully conscious. So if there's something that you really don't want to talk about, you have full control of that. It's just you quiet kind of those emotions and then you deal with it.
Yeah. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
It's going to be cool. We're both stepping into our purpose.
And it feels so
we'll do really cool things together. I'm now excited.
I'm excited too.
I'm excited to create with you. Sexy mouth.
See why I love this guide, everyone?
Okay, anything else you want to talk about?
Probably no, because I don't love listening to long podcasts. I love listening to you talk.
Well, we'll jump into more. We'll be doing this on a regular basis. And also, you're going to start your own podcast as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I'm super excited.
When are you going to start it?
I'm hoping there's a certain person I want on first. So I'm going to try to get a hold of her because I think we're all set up and ready to go.
Yep, looks like it.
So
we'll see how this turns out. Maybe we just talked for an hour for nothing.
I love hearing you talk, so that's okay.
All right, well, thanks for listening. That was fun, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good. Love you.